The twin moons of Ravkar hung over a screaming marketplace. Metal cages lined the dusty ground. Inside them, broken voices whispered, cried, and begged. The air smelled of oil, blood, and fear. In one cage sat a young alien girl named Lyra. Her skin shimmered faintly under the dim lights, a mark of her rare species, once proud healers of the outer colonies. Now she was nothing but a number, chains wrapped around her arms and ankles, leaving deep bruises. When the slavers shouted, she did not raise her head. She had learned that eyes invited punishment. Lot 39, a rough voice called. Half paralyzed, weak, but exotic, the crowd laughed. Coins clinked. Bidders from across the galaxy lifted their devices to scan her like an animal. Lyra closed her eyes. Maybe today it ends. Then she heard something strange. Human footsteps. Slow, heavy, calm. The crowd parted. A tall man walked through, his boots crunching against the metal floor. He was older, with gray hair at his temples and eyes that looked tired, but sharp. A human. Humans rarely came to this part of space. And when they did, they were either hunters or buyers of pain. Lyra's heartbeat raced. She shrank back, pressing against the corner of her cage. The man stopped in front of her. His name, whispered among traders, was Captain Reeve. No one knew much about him, only that he paid in real credits and never bargained. She's not worth much, one slaver said. Half broken. You sure you want this one? Reeve said nothing. He crouched down, looking directly at Lyra. His gaze was steady, not cruel, not mocking, just searching. For the first time in years, Lyra looked back. Her breath trembled. If you are going to hurt me, she whispered, do it fast. The slaver smirked. Huh, she's got fire still. Maybe you'll enjoy that. Reeve stood up slowly and transferred a small metal chip. I'll take her. The crowd laughed again. A human wasting credits on junk, one shouted. Maybe he wants to test human strength on alien bones. But Reeve didn't react. He simply unlocked her cage. The sound of the chains falling was louder than the crowd itself. Lyra froze. Why would he unchain me here? When she didn't move, Reeve spoke softly. Come, his voice was calm. Not like the others, no command, no threat. Just calm. Still, Lyra didn't believe him. Her body obeyed out of fear, not trust. Every step toward his ship felt like walking toward another nightmare. The market gates closed behind them. The noise faded. Only the cold night wind remained. Reeve guided her up the ramp of his ship, the dawn light. The interior lights glowed a soft amber instead of the harsh white of slave ships. The air smelled clean. Machines hummed quietly. He motioned toward a seat. Sit there. You need rest, she flinched back. No chains? He looked at her wrist, at the metal scar still bleeding. No chains, he said. Not anymore. Her mind screamed trap. She had seen this before, kindness before cruelty. They always pretended to care, then broke you worse. When he walked away to the control room, she looked around. There were no cages, no whips, no guards. Just quiet. Still, her hands shook. She didn't eat the food packet he left. She stared at it for hours. Through the window, stars drifted like silver dust. The ship left the planet behind. Lyra whispered to herself. He will show his real face soon. They always do. But in the control room, Reeve sat alone, eyes fixed on the dark sky. On the panel beside him was an old photograph. A small alien child smiling beside a younger Reeve. He touched it with a trembling hand. He whispered, Not this time. I won't fail again. Back in the cabin, Lyra curled on the seat, too tired to fight, too scared to hope. And as the ship flew into the endless black, both of them carried secrets, one of guilt, one of fear, heading toward a future neither could imagine. The ship Dawnlight moved through cold space like a ghost. Its engines hummed softly, steady as a heartbeat. Inside, silence ruled. Lyra sat near the back corner, her arms wrapped around her knees. Her eyes followed every shadow, every sound. She had not spoken since the takeoff. The food packet still sat unopened beside her. Captain Reeve sat in the pilot's chair, hands calm on the controls. His reflection glowed faintly on the window glass, a tired man surrounded by stars. He had not tried to talk. He simply flew. The silence between them was strange. Not angry, not cruel, just heavy. Lyra's thoughts spun like broken glass. He bought me. He must want something. Maybe he's waiting until I heal. Maybe he wants to sell me again. Her throat tightened. Every time he turned slightly in his seat, she flinched. Her body remembered too many masters, too many nights of pain. Hours passed. The ship drifted through blue mist, a nebula glowing like smoke. Then Reeve spoke for the first time since takeoff. His voice was calm, slow. "You should eat," Lyra froze. Her instincts screamed to obey, but her heart warned it might be a trick. He set a small plate of warm ration bread and water on the table near her. "It's not poisoned," he added without looking at her. "I don't need you weak." She stared at the bread. "Why?" she whispered. Reeve didn't answer. He returned to the pilot's seat. After a long while, hunger won. She tore off a tiny piece and ate it. It was real food, not the dry, tasteless powder she had known in cages. Still, she ate slowly, watching him through the reflection of the glass. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, cold, beautiful, and empty. Finally, she found courage to speak again. "You human," she said softly. "Why by me?" Reeve didn't turn. Because no one else should have. His words confused her. They made no sense. She looked down at her wrist, still raw from the chains. "You will not hurt me?" "No." "Then what? Do you want?" He didn't answer again. He only adjusted a switch, guiding the ship through drifting ice clouds. Lyra felt anger mixed with fear. "You lie. Humans always lie." For the first time, his voice hardened. "Then I'm not like the others." The silence returned, but it felt different now. Not empty, but uncertain. Later that night, the ship trembled slightly as it entered a gravity pocket. Lyra lost her balance and fell forward, hitting her knee. Pain shot through her leg. Reeve turned instantly, helping her up. His touch was careful, steady. She pulled away fast, trembling. "Don't," she whispered. "Don't touch me." He stepped back at once. "Sorry," her voice shook. "Why do you pretend to care? You don't even know me." Reeve's eyes softened. "You don't have to believe me yet." That yet echoed in her chest. She didn't understand it, but it stirred something small, something like doubt against her fear. He handed her a small blanket. "Sleep if you can. You're safe here." Safe. The word felt strange in her mouth. When he left the cabin, she sat still for a long time, holding the blanket close. It was soft and warm, not the rough cloth of a cell. She whispered to herself, "No chains. No guards and no screaming." Her voice trembled. "Maybe it's a dream." In the control room, Reeve looked through the front window. His hands trembled slightly over the controls. He opened a small locket on his wrist. A hollow image flickered to life. It showed a child, alien, smiling and then static. His jaw tightened. "I couldn't save her," he whispered. "But maybe I can save this one." Back in the cabin, Lyra finally lay down. The hum of the engine sounded like a heartbeat, her last thought before sleep. If he wanted to break me, he already could. For the first time in years, she slept without chains. The dawn light floated through dark space like a lonely bird. Inside, everything was still. Only the hum of the engines filled the air. Lyra sat by the small window, staring at the stars. Her wrists still ached where the chains had bitten deep. Even though she was free to move, she stayed close to the corner, because corners felt safe. Captain Reeve was repairing a damaged console near the control room. Sparks flashed, lighting his face. He worked quietly, focused, never raising his voice. Days had passed like this, and quiet days, strange days. Reeve didn't treat her like a slave, yet Lyra couldn't trust him. She had lived too long in fear to believe kindness could be real. She watched him secretly, the way his hands moved and calm, steady, the way he paused sometimes as if listening to memories no one else could hear. Why does he look sad? She wondered. He has power. He has freedom. Why sadness? Her thoughts were interrupted when the ship suddenly shook. The lights flickered. A sharp alarm blared. Reeve cursed under his breath and jumped to the control seat. "Meteor drift, hold on." Lyra grabbed the nearest handle as the ship rolled. The floor tilted. Tools flew across the room. She screamed as she slipped, hitting the metal floor hard. Her leg twisted painfully. She tried to crawl back, expecting the usual, the yelling, the punishment, the blame. But none came. Instead, Reeve ran toward her. "Stay still," he said quickly. His voice was firm but not harsh. He knelt beside her, helping her up with careful hands. She gasped in fear, pushing him away. "Don't touch me!" He didn't move closer. He simply said, "You're hurt." She looked at him, confused. No anger, no threat. only worry. He opened a small medkit and placed it on the floor between them. "You do it then," he said, backing up. "Wrap the bandage yourself." Her heart pounded. He trusted her, even though she could have used that kit as a weapon. With trembling hands, she wrapped her leg. He waited silently until she finished, then said softly, "Good. You'll be fine." She frowned. "Why help me?" "I'm nothing to you." He looked at her directly for the first time. "You're not nothing." Something in his tone, quiet but full of truth, broke through her walls. For the first time, she couldn't look away. Later, when the turbulence ended, Reeve brought a tray with 2 cups of warm broth. He set one in front of her and sat across the room, keeping distance so she wouldn't feel trapped. She hesitated. "You eat too?" she asked. He nodded once. "It's better when shared." The words felt strange in her ears, gentle words in a world that had only taught her cruelty. She sipped the broth slowly. It was warm, soft, almost sweet. Reeve glanced at her. "You used to speak better English," he said quietly. "What happened?" She looked down. Speaking was punished. He froze for a moment. Then he said, "You can speak here." She looked up, suspicious. "And if I say something wrong?" "Then you correct it together," he said simply. That's how learning works. For a moment she thought he was mocking her. But his eyes showed no amusement, only patience. He pointed at a wrench lying near her foot. "That," he said, "is called tool." She frowned, repeating softly, "Tool." "Good," he said, nodding. "This," he touched the cup. "Drink." She hesitated, then said, "Drink." He smiled, a small, tired smile. Something warm flickered inside her chest. Something she hadn't felt in years. Hope? Trust? No, not yet. But maybe the beginning of it. That night, Lyra sat alone in her small cabin. She touched her bandaged leg and whispered the words she learned. Tool. Drink. Safe. Then, almost afraid of her own voice, she tried another word she'd heard from him before. Home. The word felt strange, but soft. In the control room, Reeve listened quietly through the half-open door. When he heard her whisper home, his eyes closed. He whispered to himself, maybe this time. It will be. Outside, stars drifted by like silent witnesses. Inside, 2 souls, one broken, one haunted, took their first quiet step toward trust. The dawnlight drifted quietly between the stars. For the first time since Lyra's capture, her heartbeat wasn't full of fear. The ship's hum had become a rhythm she could sleep to, and the man she once called monster now moved like a shadow she could almost trust. Almost. Captain Reeve spent most of his time in the control room, fixing damaged circuits and guiding the ship through empty space. He rarely spoke unless needed, but his silence no longer scared her. It felt thoughtful. Still, questions grew inside her like small fires. Who was he? Why did he save her? What did he really want? Late one cycle, when the lights dimmed for night mode, curiosity won. Lyra slipped out of her cabin. Barefoot, she crept down the narrow hallway. The soft red lights glowed on the floor, painting her skin in shadow. At the end of the hall was Reeve's private cabin, the one he always kept locked. Tonight, however, the door was slightly open. Lyra hesitated. No, I shouldn't. But a quiet voice inside her whispered, You need to know who he is. Only then can you trust or run. She pushed the door gently. It slid open with a hiss. The cabin was small but warm, nothing like the cold rooms of her past. A single lamp glowed over the desk, lighting up maps, star charts, and a few strange metal tokens. But what caught her eyes wasn't the maps. It was the holoframe sitting at the center of the desk. A faint blue light flickered, showing an image of a young alien child, same race as Lyra, standing beside a smiling Reeve. The child's eyes sparkled, holding a small flower. Reeve had his hand on her shoulder. They looked happy. Lyra's heart stopped. Her hands trembled as she touched the edge of the hollow. The image blinked and shifted, now showing Reeve carrying the child through smoke and fire, shouting orders, his face desperate. Then static, then darkness. The hollow was damaged, but the pain in that short image screamed louder than any word. Lyra swallowed hard. He knew one of us. He lost her. Her chest tightened. Maybe his kindness wasn't strange at all. Maybe it came from guilt. Suddenly, she heard footsteps. The door slid open behind her. Lyra. His voice was quiet, but it froze her in place. She turned slowly, the hollow still glowing behind her. I didn't mean to. Reeve raised his hand slightly. You wanted answers. I would have done the same. She waited for anger, punishment, shouting, but none came. He simply walked past her and looked at the hollow. That was Iliara, he said softly. She was 8 years old. I found her during the border wars, and her family was gone. I promised I'd take her home, he paused. His voice broke slightly. But I failed. My ship was hit. I survived. She didn't. Silence filled the room. The hum of the engines sounded like a heartbeat again. Slow, steady, sad. Lyra looked at him. You saved me. Because of her? He nodded. When I saw you in that cage, I saw her face. I couldn't walk away again. Lyra blinked back tears. And if I wasn't like her? Reeve looked at her with tired eyes. Then I would have saved you anyway. No one deserves chains. The words hit deeper than she expected. For years she'd been told she did deserve them. That her species was weak, worthless. But here stood a human saying the opposite. She whispered, You risked your life. For a stranger. He shrugged slightly. Sometimes saving one life is the only way to fix the pieces of another. Lyra stepped closer. And do you feel better now? He smiled faintly. No, but I feel like I'm trying. For a long moment neither spoke. Just two survivors standing in a small silent room, both carrying ghosts. Finally, Lyra said softly, Thank you. For not being like the others. Reeve turned toward her. You shouldn't thank me for doing what's right. She looked at the hollow one last time and whispered, She would be proud. His eyes glistened. Maybe. When Lyra left his cabin, something inside her had changed. She no longer saw him as her captor. He was still human, still strange, still distant. But she now knew his kindness came from real pain, not hidden cruelty. As she lay down in her cabin, she whispered one more word, one she was just learning the meaning of. Trust. The dawnlight drifted through a glowing sea of purple mist, the Erethus Nebula, a maze of color and danger. Lightning flashed silently across clouds of gas, painting the ship in violet light. Captain Reeve checked the radar. The screen flickered. A red blip appeared, and then another. He frowned. No, it can't be. Lyra, who sat quietly near the control panel, looked up. What's wrong? Ships, Reeve said. 3 of them. Fast ones. Lyra's blood ran cold. Their signal, let me see it. He hesitated, but turned the monitor toward her. The symbols glowed, a familiar mark, a curved blade over a chain. Her voice trembled. That's them. The slavers. My old masters, Reeve's jaw tightened. They tracked us. Before he could react further, the ship jolted as a laser shot grazed its side. The lights flickered. The alarm wailed. Hold on, Reeve shouted, jerking the controls. The dawn light swerved through the nebula, dodging the bright beams that sliced through the mist. Lyra clung to the seat.
They'll destroy us.
You should have left me. Reeve glared back. I didn't save you to watch you die. The engines roared as he pushed the throttle. Plasma trails glowed behind them. The nebula's clouds crackled with electric storms, hiding them for a moment, but not for long. Another blast hit the lower hull. Metal screamed. Warning lights turned red, Reeve cursed. Shields at 40%. Lyra's hands shook. The memories came rushing back. Chains, cages, the laughter of those same slavers. Her body froze. She couldn't breathe. Lyra, Reeve shouted over the alarms. Listen to me. She didn't answer. Her mind was trapped in the past. Reeve turned from the controls for a second, grabbed her shoulder. Look at me. You're not there anymore. Her eyes met his. For the first time, she saw not a human soldier, but someone fighting for her, not against her. She swallowed hard. What can I do? Take the right panel. Activate the counter flares when I say. She nodded, forcing herself to move. Her fingers hovered over the glowing buttons. The ship shook again. Now, he shouted. She slammed the switch. Bright orbs exploded behind them, bursting into burning light. The slaver ship swerved to avoid them, and the dawn light dove deeper into the nebula. But the storm inside was worse than the enemies outside. Lightning storms tore through the gas clouds. Energy waves rolled across the hull. Reeve gritted his teeth. We can lose them if we cut through the storm's core. Lyra stared at the storm ahead, glowing arcs of purple energy swirling like living monsters. That will kill us. Only if we stop moving. He slammed the control lever forward. The ship plunged straight into the storm. Sparks danced across the hull. The gravity field twisted. Objects floated. Alarms screamed. Systems went black. A blast tore through the side. Reeve was thrown to the floor. Lyra screamed, crawling toward him. Blood dripped from his shoulder where shrapnel had cut deep. "Reeve," she cried. "You're bleeding." He tried to push her away. "Get into the controls." But she didn't move away this time. She tore her sleeve, pressing it to his wound. "No, you saved me. Now I save you." He stared at her, pain in his eyes, but also surprise, and something like pride. "Good girl," he muttered. Lyra gritted her teeth, running back to the pilot's seat. She remembered his training, his words, steady hands. She gripped the control stick and pulled hard, guiding the ship through the chaos. The engines screamed, but they didn't fail. Behind them, the slaver ships entered the storm, and one by one the lightning swallowed them. Explosions bloomed in the distance. The dawnlight burst out of the storm's far edge, battered but alive. The nebula behind them glowed like a dying fire. Lyra slumped in the seat, shaking. She looked back. Reeve sat on the floor, bleeding but smiling faintly. "We made it," she said softly. He nodded weakly. "Told you. Only if we stopped moving." She crawled to him, helping him sit upright. "Why do you risk your life for me?" He winced, then whispered, "Because every life is worth saving once. That's the only rule I still believe in." Lyra stared at him, eyes full of tears. "You're not like any human I've known." He smiled faintly. "And you're not like any alien I've met." Outside, the storm faded into calm light. Inside, silence returned, but it wasn't cold anymore. It was the silence of two hearts learning to trust through fire. The dawnlight floated in silence now. The engines were quiet, damaged from the storm. The once bright panels flickered weakly. It was a wounded bird, drifting through endless space. Lyra sat beside Captain Reeve, her hands trembling as she pressed a bandage to his shoulder. The wound was deep, but the bleeding had slowed. He winced, but didn't pull away. "You've done this before," he said softly. She nodded. "In the camps. I used to help the other slaves. We had no medicine, only scraps of cloth." Reeve looked at her face, the focus, the strength. "You kept others alive?" She smiled faintly. "I tried, but not everyone wanted to live." He was silent. The words hit something inside him. The same pain he carried since the war, the same helplessness. Lyra finished wrapping the bandage and leaned back, exhausted. "You should rest," she said. "I will," he murmured, then looked toward the broken control panel. "But first we need power. The nearest planet is 6 hours away. If the backup fails before then, we freeze." Lyra's eyes widened. 6 hours? You can't move in this state." Reeve tried to stand but stumbled. Lyra caught him, her small frame barely keeping him upright. "You saved me," she said firmly. "Now it's my turn." He gave a weak smile. "I'm not used to being rescued." She looked at him seriously. "Then learn." With determination, she climbed into the pilot's seat. Reeve guided her with slow, tired words. "Switch the relay. Left side. Red lever." She followed each command carefully. Sparks flew once, then faded. Finally, the light steadied. The ship began to hum again, soft, alive. Reeve exhaled in relief. "Good work." She turned toward him, half smiling. "Maybe I'm learning something from you after all." He chuckled softly. "That's dangerous." "I'm a bad teacher." For a moment, silence filled the cabin. Peaceful, not empty. Lyra looked at him. "Reeve, when we reach the next planet, what will you do?" He looked away. "I'll repair the ship. Maybe take another job. Maybe disappear," she frowned. "And me?" "You'll be free," he said simply. "You can go wherever you want," her chest tightened. "Free." She repeated the word, but it didn't sound the way it used to. "You mean I leave?" "Yes," he said quietly. "You don't owe me anything." "You never did." Lyra turned to the window. Stars drifted past. Thousands of them, each one a world she could run to. Yet none of them called her name. "I don't know what to do with freedom," she whispered. "I spent my whole life waiting for it. Now it feels heavy." Reeve leaned back, eyes half closed. Freedom is heavy. That's why most people drop it the first chance they get. She looked at him, confused. He smiled faintly. It means freedom isn't about leaving something behind. It's about choosing who you want to be next. His words sank deep into her heart. Hours passed. She watched him sleep, his face pale, breathing slow. He looked older than before, but peaceful. Lyra stood and walked to the control panel. The navigation screen blinked softly, a planet ahead. Blue and green, safe. She stared at it for a long time. Freedom waited there. A life without chains, a chance to forget everything. But as she looked back at Reeve, something inside her whispered, "You're not meant to run again." She walked over, picked up her old slave collar from the floor, the one he had removed days ago. The metal was cold, lifeless. She placed it gently on the table beside him. When Reeve woke later, he saw it. The collar lying there, open, empty. Lyra stood by the window, watching the sunrise from the nearby star. He frowned slightly. "You should get ready. The planet's close." She turned to him, her eyes calm. "I'm not leaving," he blinked. "Lyra," she shook her head. "You said freedom is choosing who I want to be. I choose to stay." Reeve looked at her, speechless for a moment. "You'll have to work, you know." "The ship doesn't clean itself," Lyra smiled. "Then teach me." For the first time, his laugh filled the cabin, quiet but real. Outside, the blue planet rose like dawn. Inside, two souls, once lost, now found, and faced it together. Weeks passed since the storm. The dawn light was alive again. The engines purred softly. The walls no longer echoed with fear, but with laughter, quiet and new. Lyra worked beside Captain Reeve each morning. She cleaned panels, fixed cables, and learned the strange human tools that once scared her. Her hands, once chained, now built instead of obeyed. When she smiled, Reeve saw the girl she could have been all along. Curious, bright, stubborn. And every time she spoke another human word, he answered with one of hers, slowly bridging the space between their worlds. One afternoon, a distress beacon flickered on the radar. A small transport ship was drifting without power near the edge of the nebula. Reeve frowned. Could be pirates. Or refugees. Lyra looked at the signal, then at him. "Once you came for me. Now we go for them." He hesitated and then nodded. "Prepare the medbay." The dawnlight docked with the crippled ship. Smoke filled the air as they entered. Inside were 5 alien refugees, thin, weak, scared. The youngest was a child clutching a broken doll. The sight froze Lyra where she stood. The chains, the trembling, the empty eyes, all memories she had fought to bury. Reeve touched her shoulder. "You okay?" She took a deep breath. "Yes, I know what to do." For the next hours, Lyra worked nonstop, giving water, tending wounds, speaking softly in her old tongue. The refugees flinched at first, just as she once had. But her calm voice, her gentle hands changed the air around them. The child wouldn't let go of her arm. "Are we safe here?" he asked in a whisper. Lyra smiled. "You're safe now. I promise." When the last refugee was settled, Reeve leaned against the doorway, watching her. "You've become the heart of this ship," he said quietly. She shook her head. "No, you gave me the heart back." He smiled faintly. "Maybe we saved each other." Later, as the rescued slept, Lyra stood at the observation window. The nebula shimmered beyond the glass, violet clouds turning gold under a distant sun. Reeve joined her, his arm in a sling but his eyes steady. "We'll drop them at the next safe station. After that, who knows?" Lyra nodded slowly. "Maybe this ship can be a home for more than just us." He raised an eyebrow.
"A home?"
She looked at him with quiet confidence. "A place where the lost find something again, hope maybe." Reeve chuckled. "That sounds like a lot of work." "Then we'll need a crew," she said, smiling. He looked out the window again. "You really plan to stay, don't you?" Lyra nodded. "Freedom wasn't about leaving you, Reeve. It was about choosing what kind of person I want to be. And I choose to help others like me, like us." He studied her face. Once fearful, now strong. "You've changed more than you know." She looked back at him gently. "You too." A long silence followed, peaceful and full. The stars beyond them glittered like promises waiting to be kept. When morning came, Lyra gathered the refugees in the mess hall. She placed cups of warm broth on the table. the same way Reeve once had for her. One of the younger aliens asked, "Why did you save us? You're not one of us." Lyra smiled softly, glancing at Reeve. "Because someone once taught me that mercy has no species." The child tilted his head. "What does that mean?" She touched her scarred wrist gently. "It means freedom isn't a gift. It's a choice. And kindness. That's how we keep it alive." Reeve watched her speak, pride softening his tired eyes. For the first time in years, he felt the weight of his guilt lift. Not erased, but transformed into something better. Outside, the dawnlight glided toward the sunrise. Its light shimmered against the edge of space. No longer a lonely ship, but a moving symbol of second chances. Moral of the story. Freedom is not just escaping chains. It's choosing compassion when the world has given you every reason to hate.